It is interesting to note that a lot of the policies that hurt black people often intentionally or unintentionally hurt poor white people as well.
That's true. Many policies that have negatively impacted black people, such as redlining and the war on drugs, have also affected poor white people. These policies have disproportionately affected black communities, but they have also harmed poor white communities. For example, redlining not only prevented black people from buying homes in certain neighborhoods, but also prevented poor white people from doing so. Similarly, the war on drugs has led to the mass incarceration of black people, but it has also led to the incarceration of poor white people. These policies are not just harmful to one group of people, but to entire communities, regardless of race.
For example, the poll tax and literacy tests, while it made it harder for more black people to vote, it did, however, also have the same effect as making it harder for poorer white people to vote as well.
Yes, that's a good point. Many of the policies that were designed to disenfranchise black voters, such as poll taxes and literacy tests, also had a disproportionate impact on poor white voters. This was because these policies were often designed to prevent anyone who was not wealthy or highly educated from voting, and many poor white people also fell into this category. In addition, there were other policies, such as sharecropping and convict leasing, that exploited both black and white workers and kept them in a cycle of poverty and debt. So, while racism was certainly a driving force behind many of these policies, the economic interests of wealthy white landowners and business owners were often just as important in shaping them.
Slavery, while obviously was directed at oppressing blacks, also had the effect of, in many cases, making it impossible for poorer white people to find work. Lincoln's family experienced that and had to actually move because of it.
Yes, that's correct. Slavery in the South created a labor system that relied on forced, unpaid labor, which made it difficult for poor white people to find work because plantation owners could use enslaved labor instead. This forced many poor white people to move westward to seek better opportunities. Additionally, the availability of free labor from enslaved people made it difficult for white laborers to demand fair wages and better working conditions, as they were easily replaced by enslaved labor.
So, you'd think black people and poor whites would be able to find more common ground?
Yes, it is true that black people and poor whites could have found common ground in their struggles against economic oppression and systemic racism. However, the Southern aristocracy was successful in dividing these groups and pitting them against each other through the use of racialized messaging and propaganda. This allowed the wealthy plantation owners to maintain their power and wealth by keeping the two groups at odds with each other, rather than united against the common enemy of economic exploitation and oppression.
As someone who has lived in both the ghettos and the trailer park community, you'll notice there are hostilities between blacks and whites, but it often doesn't make any sense as a lot of times they have similar language, similar ways of thinking, and more. It smells like someone has to be dividing these groups because they'd otherwise should get along.
It's certainly true that there can be hostilities between different groups, even when they share commonalities. Divisiveness and tension between groups can stem from a variety of factors, including historical conflicts, social and economic inequality, and cultural differences. At times, it can be tempting to think that there are deliberate efforts to keep different groups from getting along, but it's often more complicated than that. While there may be some who intentionally stoke divisions, in many cases the underlying causes of division are deeply ingrained and complex. However, it's also important to recognize that there are many instances of cross-racial and cross-cultural collaboration and solidarity, particularly among those who are most marginalized and vulnerable. Building bridges between different groups and working towards common goals can be a powerful way to overcome divisions and create a more just and equitable society.